Hello, Do That Well listeners. This is Brenda. Today, we are going to be revisiting another episode from our archives, our text messaging episode. As the world starts to open up a bit more and we're seeing each other more in person, knowing etiquette is still important, and text messaging is not going away anytime soon. So, this is a great episode if you just want a refresher on the etiquette of text messaging. You're listening to Do That Well with your hosts, Brenda Brown and Karen Thrall, a podcast about real experiences and how to turn them into life lessons. Unscripted, honest, funny, genuine, and passionate. A series of conversations where we explore every aspect of human interaction and provoke each other to do life well. Welcome. I don't know why I sang that today, but there we are. Uh, Today on Do That Well, we're going to talk about etiquette, but more specifically, we're going to talk about text etiquette. So, in today's virtual world, we communicate in so many different nonverbal ways, more than we really ever have. And when we lose sight of those visual and auditory cues, it can be more challenging for us to understand the meaning behind someone's message or behind their communication. As well, we are all so connected to our phones. I mean, more so than ever before. And that can make it really difficult for us to know where those lines and those boundaries of communication should begin and end, and how connected we even want to be to one another. So, today we're going to go over what might be some generally agreed upon rules for the etiquette of texting. And the hope from this is that we will learn how to be more effective communicators, that we can learn for ourselves where our boundaries are when it comes to how connected we want to be, as well as raise our awareness so that we can respect those boundaries that other people have as well. Okay, well, as we like to do, we found a few different articles that resonated with us that had some rules. I say that with air quotes about texting. So we will make sure to link those as well in the episode. But we're going to start here and see if we agree with all these rules or not, Karen.
Great. Here we
So the
go.
first one is if you didn't get a reply right away, it's okay. Chill out. I agree with this one. I agree with this rule.
Yeah, I do too. I think, well, my thinking logic has always been we're so fortunate to have such easy access to people. It's actually a privilege. Like 100 years ago, they were writing letters and you wouldn't get it for 30 days. So now it's like the fact we can have that quick access, that's a really cool thing. And so to remember that, but it's not mandatory that someone reply because you don't know what's going on in their world. And I think if we let all of us off the hook and start sending that vibe to all of us saying, hey, I don't need you to reply. You reply when you're ready. I'm starting this conversation or I'm asking for information. I think that would be real. I think a lot of people would be very grateful if we started telling people they didn't have to reply right away. You know.
Definitely. I actually just had a friend over the weekend and she was attending a wedding, so I knew she'd be really really busy. It was her sister's wedding, so I knew she'd be very busy with all the family stuff. And I this is basically just me boasting about a win that I had. So I thought to myself, this person's really busy, so I'm going to put in this text message, hey, no need to respond. I just wanted to let you know I hope you're having a good weekend, blah, 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 blah. And she did end up responding, but there was something as I was doing it, I was like really proud of myself because I was thinking if I was on the receiving end of that message, just that like, you don't need to respond, but I wanted you to have this information. Like for me, if I was to receive that message, it would make me feel so good because I know that I'm one of those people. If I don't text back right away, I do start to feel bad or that I haven't gotten back to that person more immediately. And or if I forget to text them back and it's been a couple days, I will get this like gut wrenching stress ball for, momentarily. Because I think that is we kind of have this idea that we need to get back to people right away. And
I know.
it's not the case.
I know for me, what I do is I want to make sure I'm not worried about when I reply. For some reason, that doesn't seem to worry me too much. And I think it's because I always reply up and
Mm,
positive. And so they know, like, well, like I want them to know I'm totally happy to text you back. I did wait a day or two, but it's not because I didn't want to text you, it's because I couldn't until now, or I just didn't find the opportunity to know. So that's my second one is I think in the tone, if we show that we're happy to get their text, I think people relax more. I think if we're more abrupt with our answers, maybe that might cause people to feel uncomfortable. But
right.
if we'd wait 2-3 days and then they get this Brenda, they get a happy text. Okay, it's not me. Oh, this is just the way she is, kind of thing. I think we can diffuse some of that fear just on how we respond to
Yeah,
text messaging.
I agree, definitely. Right. If you've let a few days go by, make sure that you're not responding in a manner that's curt or too direct, or like make sure you're acknowledging in some way
Yeah,
the lapse of time that's happened. Right.
yeah.
I like
Because I liked what you said. Like you said, hey, you don't have to reply. And I like that too, that it's a courtesy thing. And I think if we can just, right, do texting well. So
that.
some of these things, I do have friends and I have talked to many people that get overwhelmed with the read receipt. And as soon as they see that I read it, like on WhatsApp, let's say, they see I read it, now I got to reply. Well, no, you don't. You read it, but that doesn't mean you have to reply. And I think if we could all let everybody off the hook on this one, I think it would make everybody's lives a little bit less stressful.
Right. Well, yeah, I agree because reading something takes far less time than it does to calculate a response.
Ooh, wow, Brenda.
At least it does for
T-shirt.
me. I don't
That's a
know.
t-shirt.
I like to be thoughtful in my responses, so
That's
it's
a great, yeah, that was really well said. Okay, number two is always respond. I do hold true to that. I will always respond. I may not always respond and the timing that the person wants me to respond, but I will respond. So I'm trying to think if I do have my children have 100% priority, so they're going to get I only have so much time in my day. They're always going to be number one, so they're always going to get the response. But if the conversation doesn't merit an absolute response, I'm gonna take time, but I will reply. I will reply. And if I need to really think about it, I'll go read it, will reply, stay tuned. Like I'll just kind of let them know I read it and I will reply. But I think it's okay to reply to all the texts. I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't, unless there's I don't
why you
know.
wouldn't want to respond to
Yeah, like why
someone.
you wouldn't reply to, like, what would be a reason not to reply?
I think for me, so to go back to what I was saying a moment ago about my friend being at the wedding, I think there might be those circumstances where a response isn't necessary. Like, say that I'm having a
Right.
bad day and
Yeah.
or a bad week, and you know that I've been having a bad week. And so maybe you just send me a quick text that says, "Hey, Brenda, I'm just thinking about you. I hope your week's getting better."
Good point.
That might not be something I need to respond to. That's the kind of thing that I would text back just like an emoji, like a heart emoji, to be like, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good etiquette or not,
Oh
but
my
that's how
gosh.
I would do it.
We have to do one on emojis because I want to know what you're supposed to do with emojis. So hopefully that needs to be one of the ones
A
when we can
completely
do it.
different episode, like an emojis
Okay.
episode,
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. We're going to do an emoji episode.
follow up episode,
Okay, we're
emoji
pinning that.
etiquette.
Oh, emoji etiquette. We're doing that. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Keep the other person's schedule in mind. I wholeheartedly agree with this. And that can become tricky because different people have different schedules. So I'll tell you what I like to do.
Okay.
I like to have my general schedule. So I don't text anyone before 9 a.m. and I don't text anybody past 10 p.m. unless it's somebody that I know is a night owl or an early bird. And so, like
Mm-hmm.
Karen, I know that you get up really early. So I think I've
Hmm.
texted you before 9 a.m. before. I've
Yeah.
probably texted you at like 7:30 or 8.
Yeah.
And I have other friends that I know are always up until, midnight or later. So I would text them at like 10:30, 11. But I just have a general window in which I'll text people, and then I flex that depending on who I'm texting. That works for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Like even the time change, but I think we're so impulsive that we just send the text out so we don't forget.
I feel like so far a theme is kind of coming out of this, which is that you should be thoughtful in your
Yeah.
text responses. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be, and I wonder if part of what you're saying, we might just want to quickly get something out because we don't want to forget about it. We're very impulsive. We have our phones with us all the time.
Hmm.
You know, something comes into our brains and we just want to tell somebody about it. Um, so I think that this idea of being thoughtful, that you're being very, pointed and intentional with your text messaging rather than it just being like this continuation of your thoughts in your brain.
Hmm. Hmm. The next one is interesting. It says don't text a novel. Uh, they say if it's taking you more than 30 seconds to text it, you probably just want to take care of it over the phone. Don't make it more confusing than it has to be. Okay, so I do not send long texts. And if I do, it is an exception to the rule. It is a rarity for me to send a long text. So this is how I think. Text messaging is like Twitter. It's short little bits back and forth because it's texting. And then messaging, so if it's like an instant messaging, then there's a little bit of more fluidity, like you can, because there's a stream of conversation. So sometimes you can go just a little bit longer. But email, like if it's going to be long, I think that's where email comes in. So I'm not a fan of long texts because I don't always have time to read long texts, and I have received them, and it's taken me 30 minutes. I've had sometimes where it's taken me 30 minutes because I'm sitting there and I'm not used to it. I'm not used to receiving a long text. My brain's not ready for it, and it happened and I get it, but I don't think it's the time and place. But I also have friends who do it all the time. Like I don't know, like I'm not, and I one of my closest friends does a little bit longer text, and then I do. Yep. I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Like I don't even know how to do a long text. Like, and I have, like, don't get me wrong, there are times, very few times I have, but that's a rarity. That's not what I normally do. Yeah.
Well, what I find interesting about this one is what qualifies a long text. So I suppose I like that they put this 30-second, mark on it. If it's taking you longer than 30 seconds, maybe don't text it. Because that gives you an idea of like how long is too long. But I don't know. I I have mixed feelings about this. I think it really depends on the person that you're talking to. I think it really depends on like the subject matter. It depends on you know uh, that person's schedule. Like maybe that they're going to be super busy all day, so they don't have, I don't know, time for a phone call, or maybe they're really horrible with email, so you don't want to follow up with them that way. I don't know. I think this one's like kind of nuanced, and I
Yeah.
will say
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. I do send long texts sometimes.
Oh, okay. Well, we found one that we don't agree on. Yay.
I know that that's, I will say, I know that that's something I need to work on though. What happens for me is sometimes I will text in the exact same way that I talk.
Yeah.
And if anyone's ever had a casual conversation with me, you know that I tend to be a little bit of a tangential thinker. So sometimes I talk about like four different things before I am talking about the point that I actually want to talk about. And so every once in a while I will do that in my text, and I'll catch myself like, oh, they didn't need your entire stream of consciousness, in this text message.
But at the same time, okay, so this is again, nothing's black and white. None of these pointers. I know that if other people were on this podcast, they'd be poking holes in everything we're saying because they'd have a point of view. So please know these are just two friends sharing what they think, and we would love you to disagree because it makes it more fun. I would wonder though, the ones that you do longer text with, you have a relationship with.
Hmm.
I think you probably have a built-in friendship relationship, and I know some of your friends, and you it's you're connecting, and so there's that thing. So I think it's context. I know that the rule of thumb is swipe once. So when you're
Oh, okay.
sending a text, you could text and then swipe to finish the text. That's a good vibe of
Like give it
texting. But
that
if you're
moment.
doing one, two, three, then know your audience, like you've been saying in this podcast. Know your audience. Like, is this going to be okay for your audience, the person who's reading it? But
Right.
for your bestie, that might be, they may not have time to call and go, look, I got to tell you, this is urgent right now. You need to know everything right now. I'm going to text it to you later. We can, what I mean? Like, there is context.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say, and I don't know if this helps soften the blow or not. Maybe this is in my mind and I think that it helps and it actually doesn't. But if I find myself going down a long text, like looking down in shame,
Aw.
if I find myself doing that, I usually then put the first sentence as disclaimer, this is a long text.
Yeah, I do that too. I do that too. I'll go, wow, because I'll do it. I'm like, whoa. And then I go up and I add it. Oh, okay, this is a super long text. Sorry. Or whatever. Yeah, I've done that too.
I think that helps because then
Yeah.
you're letting them know that you're acknowledging that it's a lot of information, and I think that is another way that it kind of gives somebody permission to not get back to you as quickly as well. Like we
Yeah.
were saying a moment ago, it's a way to say like I'm acknowledging that this is a lot of information, so you might need some time to respond.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
And
the follow up
also,
to this one.
I don't know, but I was just going to say sometimes too, you're telling a story because the person's going, what happened? Tell me everything. Like,
Right.
again, there's context. Okay. So go next. Next one, follow up.
So yeah, I like the follow up, which was, however, don't call in response to a text without asking. And I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this one. I'm going to say that I wholeheartedly agree with this because I hate talking on the phone. And if I'm texting with someone and then all of a sudden they call me and I am not prepared for it, it stresses me out to no end. And I won't accept the call and I'll tell them I'll call them back later.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So I 100% agree too. I know what it's like to and again, I'm not a long texter. So there's short text and there's a short conversation for a reason. And I have had it where all of a sudden the person calls and I'm like, oh no, now it's going to be a 30-minute out of my day. I needed it to just be a minute and a half. And I get it. It's relational and it's warm and it's connecting, but it's not the right time. So I agree with what they say. You need to ask, can I call you now? Like, could I call you instead of text? And if they say I can only text, then you don't. Like, you do need to ask permission. Okay. Number two,
Mhm.
I, if it's a tense text, I have to call. I can't do it. So, but you're right. If I call and they're not ready for the call, even though the conversation might be a little bit uncomfortable, I just can't. Like, I have to connect. Like, I have to go, hey, let's figure out time. But I think that's what I'm hearing from you is I should probably be careful. I should be careful to ask and say, hey, I need to call you and just, can we move this to the phone?
Mhm.
I usually say I don't know how to do this on text. That's what I usually. I don't know how to have this conversation through text. Could we talk on the phone? That's usually what I say.
Well,
But
I
I think
think you're respecting the boundary right there by doing that versus
yeah.
just calling them, right? I
But I
think
think
that
I've done that too. I think I have done it too. So Brenda, I'm so sorry to the Brendas of this world. I'm sorry. Oh, I just wrote a song.
but
Okay.
I do think this one, and it goes back to what we were saying at the very, very beginning, right? This is about establishing those boundaries. Like, how connected do we want to be? And you might have some people that could totally be fine with them. Some people are like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, just call me instead. It's no big deal. So I do think some of these things, again, it all comes down to context and the people involved, right? So the next one is to generally try to avoid sarcasm. I'm laughing because I'm horrible at this. I use so much sarcasm in my text and I know I shouldn't. But this again goes back to this idea of we're losing the cues, right? We're losing the body language, we're losing the auditory cues, we're losing the facial expressions. So all of a sudden, that sarcasm just sounds mean, or it sounds like you don't know what you're talking about, or whatever it may be. I'm
But do you
still
have
chuckling to
people
myself about that. I'm horrible at this one.
do you have people that give it back like they just know you and they think they start cracking up and so then they just dish it right back to you?
I do. So I do have like, right, all again the knowing your audience. I do have those people that I know I can be sarcastic via text with, but even still sometimes I'll find my like I'll send a text and it's sarcastic and I'll even question it myself like, "Ooh, I don't know. If I receive this text, I don't know if I would read it the right way." So then I'll immediately send another text
Uh,
like, "That was a joke. This was a
uh,
joke," you know?
the sarcasm I think is hilarious are gifs. Like when someone you and they sarcastically send you a gif and they're making fun of the thing with a gif. I think those are the most hilarious ones because it's like pure sarcasm, but it's just visually awesome. So and I'm being made fun of. Like I'm actually they're poking at me and kind of they're exaggerating something I just said or did. And to me, those are my faves.
Well, I think that that works too because with the GIF or a GIF, depending on who you talk to,
Yes.
you are getting back some of that emotion, right? Because they're like little animated snippets. So I think that you can start to bring back some of that emotion that you're missing through GIFs or GIFs or emojis. Maybe GIFs and GIFs can be a part of the emoji
Yes.
conversation that we have.
Yes. Okay. There's a couple here I want to make sure we have time because one of them is, I thought was really interesting.
Yes, yes.
Is the laughing LOL thing. They have one, two, three, four, five, six ways to let someone know you're laughing. Um, that's too much. Like, it's just too complicated for me. I think you like if I'm laughing, I don't do LOL. I actually say, I am totally laughing out loud right now. I actually just say because to me that's more me. But if I go LOL, I feel like it's lost. I actually go, okay, that was hilarious. I'm actually bursting out laughing in the coffee shop. Like I'll just because it's just way too funny. And then if it's super funny, I put a lot of ha-has and a lot of exclamation marks, and I'm just like yes, that was hysterical. That's what I do. But I don't know about one ha, two ha's, three ha's, four ha's. I don't know. Brenda, what do you think? And then capital ha's, and I'm like, ah. So
I I
what
did
is your
think
thing?
that this particular article's breakdown of the ha's was a little much. I mean, I do think some of them ring true. Like if you just text HA, ha, you probably don't actually think it's very funny. I agreed with that one. I know that I personally, I'm an emoji user. I
Me
guess that's what
too.
I'm
Me
finding out
too.
through all of this is I really utilize emojis.
Yeah.
So my go-tos, this is what I do. I do a ha or like ha ha ha's.
Yeah.
If something's really, really funny, I do LOL in capital letters.
Yeah.
That's like my go-to. Like
Oh,
this was
see?
hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. I do
Um,
the two laughy emojis, one straight, one sideways, one straight, one sideways. Sometimes I'll just like do that and have them just stream so they
mhm.
can see that I'm just finding that. And then I have the upside down one and the big smiley face if I'm like if I'm finding it sarcastic or I'm like, oh, and I just do the big smile. And then the next one's the upside down, like where the person's smiling upside down. That's my way of saying that, okay, that was a good jab or that was, oh, or something, but it was
Right.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I got this from a friend. I use the coffin emoji or the skull emoji to indicate that I am dead. And that's like if something is beyond, beyond, beyond funny to me. Like then you'll get a coffin or a skull, like
That's
I'm dead.
great.
That is
Okay,
so funny, I'm
see, I love
dead.
that. Okay, and that's what we should do. We should actually. when we do our episode emojis, let's start creating new ones. There's so many out there, and we should start like just making up new emoji symbols for laughing and sarcasm, and it's
our whole own language. I
yeah,
mean, emojis are like the modern day hieroglyphs, really.
yeah.
Okay, we are running short on time, and I think that we hit a lot of the ones that we felt were pretty pertinent, but are there any more that we have time for like 2 or 3 more?
One more for me,
Okay.
all caps. Go,
All
all
caps.
caps. What do you
Um,
think? I
ooh, this one has me thinking because I I don't ever use all caps myself unless it's the LOL. Um, but I don't mind it if other people all caps.
I
It
don't
doesn't
think
bother
people are
me.
yelling. I actually make fun of myself and go, I'm not yelling. I go for emphasis. Like I'll just say for emphasis, and it's just all caps because I think it's awesome. I, I don't know anybody who uses all caps to yell. Like I actually don't know anybody who does that. So I don't translate all caps as yelling. I think, oh, they left their all caps thing on,
Yeah. I
or
same. I think most of the people I know that utilize all caps, it's more for excitement. It's not
yeah.
because they're angry. I've never really had anyone send me an all caps angry
No, I
text.
don't know if that exists. Does it even exist?
It must
I
be
think
for them
people
to
when
put
people
it in the
get angry,
article.
when people get angry, they just swear.
Right. Right.
They're just everything's just
That's
it
when you
gets
get
pretty.
you are so ducking dumb because autocorrect likes to make that a duck. Uh,
So, anyways, I don't. I think when someone's angry, they just let you know they're angry, and they use, they just go for it. If
yeah,
it, at that point, if they're going to yell at you by text, game is
they're
on. Like,
right. Like
I don't think they're worried about all caps at that point.
no, that's when you send. Do you have time for a phone call?
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I don't answer that one for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. 2 weeks later, do you have time for a phone call?
Uh,
Uh-oh. There's a bad texting etiquette. Don't do that. Okay, so I do have one more that I would like to bring
okay.
to the table as well,
Okay.
which is don't bury your face in your phone when you're hanging out with someone.
Oh.
I do think, and maybe this is old school of me, but I do think that if you're hanging out with someone, it's
Hmm.
impolite to like text and do things on your phone,
Yeah.
unless you name it. For instance, if you're waiting for a text from somebody, or if you have something that you're trying to tie up, or plans that you're trying to solidify, or whatever it may be. And now I'm hanging out with Karen, and I'm trying to make plans with Victor, and Victor's finally texted me back because he's horrible at texting. No, I'm just kidding. But then I could say, "Oh, real quick, Karen, sorry, I need to deal with this really fast," and then I'll do the thing. But I perhaps again, perhaps this is old school of me, but I do think that we all need to be better about
Yeah.
being engaged when we're with people
Hmm.
in person and not being engaged with the person on the phone because you have a real
Hmm.
person with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You have your phone always.
Yeah. I like it. I think that's a great way to end the podcast. I think that's a great call to action because the whole point, as you said earlier, of text etiquette is being thoughtful of the other human on the other side of that phone. And if you have a human with you, then you be thoughtful of the human that's physically next to you. So the theme is thoughtful.
Right.
And I think to remember what works for you, like just know your audience. And if you're with someone who actually wants you to be on their phone because they want to be on their phone, okay, fine. If you're supposed to sit on the couch and you're just lounging and you're both on your phone, but you're leaning in or whatever, but you can tell, like you want to,
Hmm.
it's always the humans are first, come first.
Yes,
So there
exactly.
we go. There we go.
Yeah. So I do. I think you're right, Karen. Our key points today definitely we were dancing around this idea of, be thoughtful, be intentional with your communication and the way that you're interacting with your phone and therefore your people. And then knowing your audience, just making sure that the style of the person that you're texting and their schedule and all of those other
Mhm.
things, whether or not it's okay to write a novel with them or if it's best to get on a phone call. And just being respectful of other people's time in the same way that
Mhm.
you would want them to be respectful of yours. Thanks for joining us today on Do That Well. See you next time.